Under situations where they're biting, good conditions, throw something that's got some kick to it. Hot water, like Guntersville, August, September, when that hydrilla really mats up and those fish start getting on a punching bite, I'm gonna flip that bait that's got some kick to it. Now when it starts getting into November, December, I start getting them cold fronts and that water starts cooling off, that's when I'm gonna go to these baits that just glide. A sweet beaver, when you flip it in there, it's gonna glide almost like a tube. A tube spirals a little bit more, but a beaver's got that glide to it. And that's what they like, I feel like, that time of the year. And that BB cricket, if you get a major cold front, that's the one you want to be flipping, I promise you. Let's talk about colors a little bit, because I know that's something that, and that sweet beaver, man, it comes in some awesome colors. That's one of the greatest things about it. But when it comes down to it, I don't get real carried away with my colors. Really and truly, with anything, I really don't get too carried away with my colors. Now, I do carry every color spike-it dye there is known to man in my boat. But I like to mess around with tail colors and stuff like that. Orange tails, blue tails, chartreuse, obviously. But 90% of the time, if I'm punching, I've either got some form of black and blue. This is actually South African Special right here. It's just what I grabbed when I was leaving the house yesterday. But it's going to be something dark, like black and blue, black and red, or it's going to be some form of green pumpkin. Green pumpkin blue is really good. Most of the time now, if I'm trying to mimic bluegill, it's going to be some form of that green pumpkin color. Like I said, green pumpkin blue, green pumpkin green, something right in there. And I'll put a little bit of chartreuse dye right on the tip of those tails. Particularly on this Z-Craw Junior, because those tails are going to be kicking. It's going to give you a little bit of flash when it's falling, when you put a little bit of chartreuse on those tails. But on the beavers as well. But yeah, don't get too carried away. I have found and I have bought colors, Lord have mercy. We've all done it. We got a pegboard full of all these different colors of the rainbow in our garage, but it's like we always go back to the simple stuff. The blacks and blues, the green pumpkins. Water clarity is a big deal when it comes to that too. If the water's dirty like it was out here on Neely Henry this morning when I was driving over here, it looked fairly stained, fairly dirty. Might not be dirty to y'all, but looked pretty dirty to a Middle Tennessee boy. I'd definitely be flipping something black and blue, black and reds, something right in there, just so they can see it. But if I get in some pretty clean water situations, or I think they're heavily feeding on bluegill, I'm definitely going to go with some form of green pumpkin. Now, if I start seeing, a couple of years ago we fished on Santee Cooper in the fall, and I was catching them punching there. And after day number two is when I kind of struggled on day one. And after day one, I was like, man, I ran around too much, and that was just dumb. I got to get somewhere. I got to calm down and do what I do. I always do better when I just get in an area and just pick it apart. I think that's why I've had the success that I have had in Florida, because that's the best way to fish down there. But day two, I ran back into the back end of this creek. It had some good mats back in the back of it. I was like, I'm going to stay back there all day, and I'm going to figure out how to catch those fish. And it ended up having a really good day and coming back and finishing top 25 in that tournament. But after day two, I noticed always look in my live wells, always look in your live wells if you're fishing a multiple day tournament. And I noticed these big red crawdads. They're like red and black. So day three, I go back out there and I'm armed for battle then. I've got some black with red flake crawfish, Z-Craw Juniors, because I know those fish are feeding on crawfish. Now, here's another little trick. If I know those fish are feeding on crawfish and it's a clear water situation, then I dye that tail in orange.